off from doing these videos because I am going to school, and I'm also evidently not remembering what I wanted to say. I've been going to school, I've been working with my clients, and I'm getting ready for the end of the year, which is in 5 days. Kind of always, this is the weirdest week of the year. There's no question about it. This week, everybody's like, well, I don't even know what day it is, how many days till New Year's. We're right between Christmas and New Year's, and everyone's kind of in a daze. Nobody knows whether or not they should be open or not. If you're retail, then obviously you're open, but some of the professional offices are not. A lot of people take the last week of the year off, or at least dialed way back. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk quite a bit about what to do to prepare for the end of the year. The very first thing, of course, is to make sure that your books are caught up and up to date. If you are behind on your books at all, feel free to private message me or direct message me through Facebook or through YouTube. That's the platforms that these videos go out on. You might be able to, I guess in YouTube you need to put it in the comments. On Facebook you can send me a direct message, and I would like to talk to you about what your needs are and how to get finished and ready for tax season before tax season starts. That's always kind of my goal. This year I'm not going to be doing taxes this year, at least off the bat, unless I change my mind. I am putting an application into the IRS for a PTIN number, which is the preparer tax ID number, which lets the IRS know who did what taxes. Like I said, I am back in college to complete my accounting degree, and as soon as I finish that taxation class and I feel like I've got a good handle on it, and after I have really looked kind of deeply into the changes in the tax law that just are going into effect, then I will start doing taxes, and hopefully that will be before September. So that's kind of, phase one. Phase two is I am looking for sales personnel. I am looking for someone who can actually help me develop the sales material. I have done absolutely nothing with this business. I came from another company that I helped to start, and there's not a whole lot I can say about that without sounding like I'm throwing my partner under the bus, and that's not really what I want to do. But I have been kind of left feeling like I'm trying to make the best of a bad situation. I'm going to have to come back to that. So I wanted to kind of get some housekeeping out of the way first. I am seeking evidently sales personnel. I thought that I had everything dialed in for a solid bookkeeping business, and about 10 months ago that went sideways, and so I'm finding that I need to almost start over again. I really consider this a lot of making the best of a bad situation. I did not want to be starting another bookkeeping business this year. I opened this in February to try to kind of keep body and soul together until things changed, and evidently things aren't going to change. So I am, and you are good at sales, please let me know. It would be commission only. I am just getting this started. So the next thing related to that is I'm also going to be hiring bookkeepers, and both of these positions are a work from home position. I'm going to have someone generating warm leads if you are in sales, and if you are a bookkeeper, you will be, as of today, a 1099 contractor. You will be allowed to work from home. You'll be expected to provide your own equipment, and so on and so forth. You will have no taxes taken out of your check. That's kind of part of being a 1099. And you can work anytime. However, I am going to be trying to get my bookkeepers up to full-time, and when that happens, I will be looking for an office suite. So a lot of things are going on. I'm less than happy with the way the year has turned out. I'm less than happy with the way that things kind of shook out. I really thought that they would happen differently, but sometimes it's just the way it is. So with all that said, what do you do to prepare for the end of the year as far as your accounting is concerned? And by the way, one more housekeeping thing, I'm probably going to change the name of this business in the next couple of years. I'm not sure yet, but it will be just a name change. I'm not sure what I'm going to change it to. That's kind of the thing. So how do you get ready for the end of the year? A lot of people don't know. That's why they know that 1099s have to go out on January 31st, no later than. They know that. They know W-2s also have to go out by the last day of January. Beyond that, most people really don't know what they need to do to close their books for the year. And you do actually want to close them. You want to make sure that you can't go back and muck up your previous year's work. So how do you do that? How do you close your books? And what do you do to prepare for the end of the year? Well, the very first thing is, and this is about the time a lot of small persons, start saying, oh, well, I haven't actually written down a single expense that I have, and I have no idea if I've even made money or lost money. And others will look at their profit and loss, which is just an income statement. It says this is what came in and this is what went out, and it does not account for business loans. And they say, well, I'm doing okay. I have money in the bank. And I'm going to go a little bit more in depth on the balance sheet again and again and again, probably, as I learn better ways to explain it. I understand it, but that doesn't mean that I can explain it well. The balance sheet shows what your assets are, and that's your cash in the bank. That is the buildings that you own. That's the cars that your business owns. That's, by the way, not credit cards. I have had people try to tell me that a credit card was an asset to the business, and I said, no, it's a liability. You have to pay that back. If you own land, that's part of your business assets. Most businesses at the level that I work with them, and I specialize in the very small businesses, they just do basically cash on hand is their main asset. I have an auto repair shop that I talk about all the time. It's Edgemont Auto Service down in Provo, and they're wonderful. They have things like equipment that is an asset. They have their hydraulic lifts to pick up the car. That's an asset. They have a building. They have land. They have some other things that a lot of the other people that I work with are more of solopreneurs. They're just one person trying to build a business. So what other assets do you have? Well, then there's intangible assets that don't go on your balance sheet, things like your business name, your good name. They don't go on the balance sheet. You can say, oh, this is an asset all you want, but it doesn't go on the balance sheet, and therefore no investor is ever going to look at that and say, oh, yeah, I want to invest in their good name. It may be in practical terms an asset because I hope that my good name is an asset. I hope people go, oh, Donna Harris, I know her, and I know she's, has integrity, and I know that she works hard, and I know that she has the intelligence and the education that I need to get the books done. I would hope that that's what people think about me, but that's not an asset as far as my accounting goes. So then, you look on the balance sheet, you have your assets, your liabilities, and your equity. And your assets are the things that you own, things that you have. Liabilities sometimes offset those assets. For example, if you own a home, but you have a mortgage against your home, your liability and your asset kind of offset each other. So if you have a $300,000 home and you have a $250,000 mortgage on that home, then you actually only have a net asset of $50,000. So you have to kind of look at what that is. The difference, by the way, is what shows up in the equity portion of your balance sheet. So it's important to know and to understand what is an asset and what's not an asset. As far as accounting is concerned. Now, like I said, that doesn't mean that sales materials aren't an asset. If they help you build your business, then they can be. You need to know whether you're winning or losing is really what it is. If you have money in the bank, but it's more than offset by money that you owe, you're actually going backwards. And it's always really kind of difficult for me to say these things to my clients because I like my clients. I have yet to meet a client. I have met a client that I felt like was just out to scam people. I've met a couple of them. But if they stay with me for any length of time, then they are really in it to win it. And so I want to help my clients be winners, come out ahead. I want to see them grow, and that means I want to see those assets grow, not just the income, but also the asset. And I really want to see those revenue numbers go up and their expense numbers go down. Well, the only way to figure out if you're winning or losing is to have your bookkeeping done every week as a minimum. I have a specific system that I use that I developed. And the way this works is that I do all the bookkeeping for a company, and it doesn't matter where the company's located. I only like to work with American companies because I don't want to deal with currency exchange rates. It was a pain in the neck when I lived in Germany. I don't want to deal with it. But I can work for any company in the United States or any other territories. It doesn't matter where. You can be in Hawaii or you can be in Key West, Florida. I can still work with you. I did have a comment on my YouTube that I thought was a little odd. How do you take payments for people all the way across the country? And I was like, have you never heard of a credit card? I actually use ACH. I get a form from my clients or my customers, and that allows me to take the money out of their accounts. I'm very, very careful about that because that's a tremendous amount of trust that they're putting in me. And so I'm very careful to make sure that everything is just right. So it's really simple. I'm still kind of shocked that I got that question. How do you get payment from people across the United States? Really? This is the 21st century. How do you not? So seems like a nice kid too. So I can work with anyone across the United States. So the very first thing you want to know is just going into 2018 is, are your books caught up? If they're not caught up, please message me, comment below, direct message me through Facebook, and let's talk, because I can get you caught up, and I can get you caught up very affordably. If your books are caught up, if you're not sure what that means, you can reach out. Then it's time to start getting things in order for the tax preparer. They are going to want to see your previous year's taxes if they haven't done your taxes before. They're going to want to see your current books, which I would provide, and they're going to want to see, they're going to want to make sure that we have the basis right. And that everything is completely caught up, that every single transaction is done. Now, I usually say that my clients are ready for taxes by the end of January. There is an exception to that. If you wrote a check in August and I don't know about it, that's why I like to do the checks. I like to receive all of the information about the checks at the time they're written so that I can account for them at the time. However, I do have clients that I have view access to their bank accounts, and I log into that and I just see what's gone through the bank. The problem with that is if you wrote a check in August or September and it doesn't clear until January or February, I've seen people sit on these checks for months, then we need to make sure that we can allow for these additional expenses that actually belong to that year. If you're getting checks cashed in 2018 that were written in 2017, I need to know about that so that your books can be correct. What about payroll? Well, I have had clients that are very concerned that the last payroll of the year actually is paid out at the end of the year. The problem with that, or maybe the misunderstanding with that, is that just because an employee worked the last 2 weeks of December doesn't mean that expense needs to stay on there. It actually kind of washes out, and by that I mean you get your last 2 paychecks, or your last paycheck in December. I'm assuming most businesses pay about the 1st and the 20th of the month. So you have your January 5th payroll, and the money comes out. And we account for that in January 2018. Or, well, what about January 2017? It kind of washes out. It just kind of moves down one. So that's not something to be concerned about. The number one thing I'm seeing, though, is that clients do not have, or business owners do not have their books in order. They don't have things looking good. They don't have all of their reports cleared up. Kind of in the middle of working on a report for one of my clients where we import all the transactions from their software, from another software that they use for a point of sale. And it creates invoices and payments in QuickBooks, and it doesn't always apply the payments to the invoices. And sometimes there's rounding errors, so that this particular piece of software will round one way and QuickBooks will round the other way, and then I have a penny or two that I need to fix. So I'm in the middle of that, and then making sure that their payables are correct. And by that I mean they receive bills all year. We pay on trade lines all year long. Now I want to make sure that I have current bills in their accounts payable so that those expenses are properly accounted for. And I want to make sure that there's no duplicate bills that got paid months ago that are still showing up in accounts payable. So that means I do have to do some review. It is not actually realistic to assume that you are never going to have mistakes in your books. It is realistic just to ask your bookkeeper or accountant to review your books, make sure that everything looks good, make sure that there's nothing hanging out that's months and months old that may have been overlooked because it was a duplicate. You know, that is realistic. The number one problem I see small businesses having is they simply don't do their bookkeeping. Starting in 2018, if you have been a client of mine previously, you have been familiar with the idea that I just go into your bank account and that sounds awful. I have view access. I can't do anything with it. But I look at your bank account and I see what goes in and I put that into QuickBooks and that's done. I'm completely changing my model. I'm going to be going more towards a consultation model, and in order for me to consult with a client, the consultations, I'm going to have quick consults with my clients every quarter. If you want a more in-depth consultation, there will be a charge for that. There will be a fee. But in order for me to have correct information to even begin to give consultations, I have to have complete control of everything. And so that means that I would want to do the invoicing. Or at least be aware of the invoicing. I need to know about deposits. I need to know about your receivables and your payables. I need to know about everything. And so I'm going to start asking more in-depth questions about, do I have all of your accounts? And that kind of comes up because I have had a client that he flips houses. He flips real estate. And so he will go in and he will buy a house and he will refurbish it and then sell it. And that's great. I'm glad he makes a lot of money doing that. But he keeps trying to hide some of his accounts. And I keep having to go, you can't do that. You can't do that. The very first thing you need to understand is that I'm on your side And the second thing you need to understand is I'm not the IRS police, but I am going to talk to you about what is acceptable before the IRS. What is a business expense? You can't expense everything, much as I would like to. I've had people say, well, you know, I was out of town on a business trip, so I could expense these Christian Louboutin shoes. And I went, ugh, if that worked, I would be driving to New York. You know, I'd be on a plane to New York right now because I love Christian Louboutin. If that worked, I would be making business trips to New York. It doesn't work. They will disallow it. I have had people say, well, you know, I took one of my colleagues with me to Disneyland, and so I'm going to write off this Disneyland trip. And I just go, if only that worked. I'd move to Anaheim. It doesn't work. There are specific situations when you can write off part of a trip, but unless the entire trip is business related, and that means you can't go to Disneyland, you can't write that off. So I'm just as bad as anyone else. I try to figure out a way, you know, can I write off my miles? Mileage is a frequently overlooked expense, by the way. The fact is I only use my car for business, so so yeah, I can write off some of my miles. I do drive for sales calls, and I do drive every week to pick up packets, and I've tracked those miles. So there's a lot going on, and I'm really excited to hear about the tax reform. I'm excited to see how that's going to change things. I have not delved deeply into that, but we are going to be talking about that more. And I'm kind of looking at my video and going, I have been yapping to myself for how long now? So I'm going to call it good. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and I will look forward to talking to you again soon.